All right, I'm making this little recording to share for my friends who have asked about how we have mastered sleep in our family, because I want to share this info and I hope that it is helpful for anyone who is trying to get more sleep in their family and have everybody well rested and doing whatever you want to do with your family unit as a whole. So what do I mean when I say master sleep in our family? Well, it's basically just whatever I want, whatever we want, whatever we want to do with our life on the schedule that we want to do it. We're all getting well rested. We're all getting all of the sleep we need. We're all getting all of our needs met. We're all happy. We're not waking each other up, et cetera, et cetera. Just getting that basic sleep need met without any issues. So for me, I'm a single mom of 3, and I personally never want to get woken up. I want to have really high quality sleep. I never use alarms. I like to feel free to go out and party at night. I like to not get woken up, not only not by alarm, but not by any children. I typically like to wake up before my kids and do lots of things. Or I want the freedom to, stay out late if I want and still not have to worry that I'm going to get woken up or that, that's going to disrupt our family schedule. And my children, all of them sleep on the schedule that I designed for them. So that means they go to bed, they wake up, and they nap on whatever schedule makes sense for our entire family unit, because I am the leader, the designer of our family schedule and everything else. So a lot of parents say, I hear oh, I don't know if my kid is napping today, or I don't know if they need a nap, or just they often sound surprised by what their kid needed or didn't need or what they're doing. And there's none of that for me. It's always, I know exactly how much sleep my kids need and exactly if they're napping or not napping. And the kids know as well, because that's the rhythm that they're on. That's what, their body expects. And there's just no question. And there's no falling asleep at some weird time or, anything funky like that. Your body's in alignment with the schedule that you've designed for it, for everyone in our family. So what else? My babies, all of my babies, they have slept 12 hours a night by 3 months, usually actually for 6 weeks and 8 weeks for my first 2. And so that's 12 hours a night, not waking up. And starting at around 3 months, I put them on a schedule where they're doing 2 90-minute naps. And then by 7 to 8 months, 1 3-hour nap. And there's no question about that. There's no, I don't know if they need it. Like I said, when parents they're not sure if they need the nap or or their babies just fall asleep. There's just none of that. They nap when I decide, when we're home, when they're in their bed. There's, or if needed to out, but it's just not, our family is not run dependent on, some unknown expectation of the child's sleep needs. It's already preset and it works for our entire family as a unit. And when I design our family sleep schedule, I'm thinking about the family as a whole. So if you're just not having any schedule at all and you're just trying to watch your baby's cues, which of course is, the younger they are, it's of course good to be aware of their cues. But if you're just trying to adapt to your baby, that's never going to work, because your baby doesn't go to work. Your baby doesn't need to prep food for the whole family and get the house clean. You've got way more obligations. Your baby's just kind of adapting to whatever you do. So so that wouldn't work if you're trying to adapt to them when really they don't really care. They just need a lot of sleep. So we design our schedule to work for everyone in our family. And an example of that, when I say everyone in our family, when I had 2 under 2, it made a lot of sense for us to do a family nap, for us to all nap for 3 hours in the middle of the day. And so until Stella was 4, we kept I think it was about 2 years, we did a 3-hour family nap in the middle of the day. And so she had that family nap until she was 4. When Silas was 2, I actually cut the family nap. So he didn't get the 3-hour nap. And instead we tacked on those 2 sleep cycles onto his core sleep, because it made more sense for our family, because Stella had some afternoon classes, and that wouldn't have worked if he was going to nap and she was going to be afternoon classes. Plus there were a lot of other things we wanted to do in the afternoon at that time. So it made more sense to cut the family nap and for them to get those sleep cycles in their core sleep. So this is what I mean when I say master sleep in our family. So if that's something that you want to do, I'm going to explain exactly how we do this. And again, the big difference here that I'm pointing out is that this is intentional. It's by design. It's not like, oh, I think my kid should nap or like not nap. It's not like how you feel about what they need on a day-to-day. It's really about what they actually need and what you've designed, because that's what your body responds to. It responds to whatever you've set it at. So in the previous days, weeks, whatever. So all right, so that's what I mean by that. Yeah, and I said sleep is never an issue for us. I already mentioned that. What else? So I mentioned about the family schedule. So okay, so how do I design this schedule for my family? And I mentioned I know 100% of the time exactly how much every different aged person needs in our family. And I'm going to explain at what age how many cycles are needed. And so this allows me to set the schedule for exactly what I want at this season of our life. By knowing exactly how much sleep everyone needs, and then you take a look at what your schedule is, or what you want your schedule to be with work or school or whatever, time set commitments you have in your life, then you can decide when you want everyone to wake up, when you want your children to wake up, when you want your baby to wake up, when you want to wake up. And there's no anyone waking anyone else up, or anyone's schedule getting affected, or anyone's sleep getting affected by someone else's schedule in the family. So how do I know 100% of the time exactly how much sleep everyone needs and when they should go to bed and when they should wake up? That's what I'm going to explain now. So in order to explain that, first I need to teach you how sleep works, if you're not aware. Hours are completely irrelevant. Saying that you need, or someone needs, or they slept or didn't sleep a certain number of hours a night or a day is totally irrelevant information. That is not helpful at all when calculating when to go to bed, when to wake up, how much to sleep, or how much you did sleep. That doesn't make any sense. What makes sense are cycles. How many cycles you've had or need in a 24-hour period is the only thing that really matters. And these need to be uninterrupted cycles, and they need to be consistent. So adults, well, let me start out by saying humans of all ages require they sleep for around 90-minute cycles, sometimes a little less for adults, which I can explain later. But adults need around 5 90-minute cycles. This comes out to 7.5 hours. So if you're getting all your sleep in one go, one monophasic core sleep chunk, that's 7.5 hours and uninterrupted. and you're good to go for 24 hours. Of course, you could break that up and do some napping, but most adults prefer to get it done in one monophasic chunk. Monophasic meaning all the cycles together versus polyphasic where you've broken them up throughout the 24-hour period. So in 24 hours, adults need 5 cycles, unless they're injured, sick, incredibly stressed, pregnant, then you might need 6, something like that, or sleep deprived or in sleep debt. But on the regular, since you're designing the schedule, you need 5 cycles. I'll go backwards from adults down to babies. So teenagers need 6 cycles, which is 9 hours. But again, the cycles are more important than the hours, because if those cycles were interrupted, that basically doesn't count. Also, you can typically get your cycle in less than 90 minutes. Again, it's not as ideal. That's why you need to focus on the cycles. Such as, if needed, your body is able to get a shorter cycle in a nap period, as long as it's not interrupted. If it's not 90, then it could be 45 or 20 minutes. But those 90-minute cycles are, especially in the core sleep, especially for the majority of them, need to be the longer full cycles. For me, it's actually a 75-minute cycle. And this happens a lot with parents and with people that are have a lot of responsibility and stress. The body shortens the cycle. From my research, anywhere between 75 to 90 minutes is a typical cycle. Okay, so adults need 5 cycles. Teens need 6 cycles. Again, 5 cycles, 7.5 hours. Teens, 6 cycles, that's 9 hours. School-age children around 5, 6 to 12 years old need 7 cycles, that's 10.5 hours. Preschoolers need 8 cycles, that's 12 hours. And now here, it may or may not make sense to break that up. So those 12 hours, like I mentioned, could be 9 hours a night and a 3-hour nap, like I did when I had 2 young preschoolers. Or you could do, like we do now with my 3-year-old, 1 12-hour with no nap. Or you could break it up. You could do a 90-minute nap. I prefer not to do that. I prefer to always do either a 3-hour or no nap, because if you do 90-minute, then it's you're dealing with potentially skipping that because your body doesn't need it as badly, and then you're kind of like doing that thing that a lot of parents do, where like they skip a nap one day and then they do 3 hours another day, and it's really not consistent, and then your body's not set with that schedule. So I never do that. I never do for a preschooler a 90-minute nap. I either do a 3-hour or 0 nap and put those hours in that 12-hour chunk at night. So again, preschoolers, 8 cycles, toddlers, 9 cycles. So that's 13.5 hours. So this is like you have a 1-2-year-old. Again, I do a 3-hour nap. So that would be 10.5 hours at night, 3-hour nap. And I think it's clear from what I've mentioned, I would never, ever wake a child. I never wake myself. I never use alarm clocks. So this is uninterrupted naps. Ideally in bed, in a quiet room, in the dark. I don't do naps ever at school. I also breastfeed all my children. I don't use pacifiers, and I don't use swaddles. So, this is high quality sleep we're talking about here. Okay, so that's toddlers, 9 cycles, babies, 10 cycles. So that's 15 hours. So I do 12 hours at night and then a 3-hour nap. And then newborns need 11 cycles, which is 18 hours. So what this looks like for us, for example, so I've got a beginning of school age kiddo, 5-year-old, a preschooler, a 3-year-old, and a 3-month-old. So just as an example, with our family, how this works is for us, I work backwards when I design the schedule. So I think, all right, I want my kids to be ready on any day to leave the house at 8:30 a.m. And they do leave the house at 8:30 a.m. on many days. And so that means I want them to be up at 7:30, which just is the right amount of time for them to leisurely do their morning checklists of getting dressed and eating breakfast and brushing their teeth and all those things without, me having to rush them. I don't want them to wake up any earlier than that because that would infringe on, my sleep, potentially if I was going to sleep that long. So anyway, so if I want them to wake up at 7:30 a.m., that means my school-age child who needs 10 and a half hours would go to bed at 9 p.m. and my 3-year-old who needs 12 hours goes to bed at 7:30 p.m. So that way, my child who needs 7 cycles gets their 7 cycles. My preschooler gets their 8 cycles, and they both wake up at exactly 7:30 a.m., which is exactly what I want because they share a room. And they like waking up at the exact same time. And then my baby, who sleeps 12 hours just now, which is fantastic. I want to wake up at, let's say I haven't quite decided the full schedule. So let's say I want the baby to wake up also at exactly 8:30 a.m. because I tandem nurse everyone. It's nice for us to all do that at the same time, right when we wake up. So if I want my baby to wake up at 7:30 a.m. as well, then I would put my baby to bed at 7:30 p.m. So, and then, and then we've got it. So I'm talking about a 3-month-old. So, we're not quite there yet, but the plan is, as I've done with my other children, I'm going to do 2 90-minute naps. Actually, we are pretty much there. I just haven't, solidified the exact time. So again, I decide those times that we're going to do those 90-minute naps. For example, I do a 3-hour workday at my kids' preschool from 12:45 to 3:45, 1 to 2 days a week. Therefore, I want my baby to nap, like I said, in their bed. So I'm going to have my baby nap from 10 a.m. to 12 and from 4:30 or 5 to 6 or 6:30 because I'm going to do those 2 90-minute naps. And I want my baby to be awake while they're at the park with the nanny while I'm doing that schedule. So that's an example of how I'm going to do the 2 90-minute naps plus the 12 hours of sleep. And again, the rhythm is perfect for our family. So when my children reach around 7 or 8 months old, now this is the radical thing that rarely people do, I switch. It's not like, oh, my kid dropped a nap, or like, I don't know if my kid needs to sleep, or just this whole or I can't get my kid to sleep. No, at 7 or 8 months old, we just switch. We combine those 2 90-minute naps and we put them together in 1 3-hour nap. And every single day at the same time, we do that 3-hour nap. And that's it. It's very consistent. It's never an issue. My kids, well, not all of them, but under age 4, they typically go to sleep and within a few minutes max, because of our set schedule, because they're breastfed, because they sleep in a consistent, comfortable, dark, quiet place in their bed. And then whenever we need to make a switch in the schedule, it easily just switches to the new schedule, and there's never much of a issue in terms of anyone getting off schedule or not getting their needs met or having trouble going to sleep or anything like that. So what else? Like I said, if you have I'm just going to say the baby thing one more time because that's the part that's quite different from everyone I talk to. So, I guess I didn't mention how to get your baby to sleep on that schedule. So, I have done childcare for 20 years and taught hundreds and hundreds of families how to sleep train their babies. So I do have a lot of experience in that regard. But I don't have a lot of experience with bottle feeding. Well, other than when I did childcare. I'll just say for myself, what I do is I bed share for the first couple months because I love bed sharing. And then because I've noticed that both the newborns, babies, children of all ages, when they bed share, they tend to move their arms and legs around, and that would disrupt my sleep. And my boundary is I don't want my sleep disrupted. So when they are 6 to 10 weeks old, I just move them to the crib with a sleep sack. I don't use any swaddles. I leave their arms free. It's very important for children to be able to self-soothe, whether they're going to suck their thumb or do something else with their hands. I don't use baby buckets. I don't use swaddles. I do not restrain ever of their movements. That's very important for their physical development. So I just move them over to a crib and then slowly reduce any night feedings. I tend to find this is way harder for me and my body than my baby. Just getting used to when I wake up, not breastfeeding and instead just putting myself right back to sleep. And it typically only takes a few days for my body to adjust to that. And then if the baby's used to waking up, well, I tend to find that they just start to sleep through their cycles. But unless we're sleeping right next to each other, because then it just, it's easy to just have milk. So that's why I just move them away. I have not mastered bed sharing and having a baby sleep 12 hours a night. So it seems like I don't think that's very common. But anyway, that's not what I do. That's never worked for me. I love bed sharing, but I just value my sleep more. So instead, I just move them to a crib and slowly reduce any night feedings. Usually it's like they sleep like a 6-hour, because 90 minutes, they sleep like 4 cycles at a time. And then, if you feed in the night, you just reduce it a little bit less and baby's generally asleep anyway, practically while they're feeding. And then they'll sleep like 9 hours and then 12, something like that. Maybe 10 and a half and then 12. And then they're sleeping 12 hours a night. And then I just basically you just pick whatever schedule you want and you just put yourself and your kid and your babies on it. And if all of a sudden they're tired when they shouldn't be, or they're awake when they shouldn't be, if they're awake and they need to sleep, then you just turn down the lights, make it quiet, soothe them, whatever. Also, I do this with zero crying. The crying comes in when you wait later to do it. In my experience, again, I know people have a lot of different experience. Mine has been very easy and straightforward in comparison to everyone else I've heard from. So, I can't speak to all the challenges and everything that everyone experiences. So if they need to go to sleep, just make sure you make it sleepy time. And if it's awake time, then you make it awake time. And, within a few days, anyone, babies, children, adults, all just adjust to that schedule. Just the point is to keep it consistent. There is this thing in behavior training called the extinction burst, where if you unfortunately have trained something that isn't ideal, such as maybe you've been feeding your baby throughout the night for way longer than you wanted to, and then now you need to kind of like quickly sleep train them or whatever. Sleep training is really only relevant with the crying and all of that when you're doing it late and when you're trained something that isn't ideal. So when you're switching that behavior, there's this it's really just like the first night or the first or maybe even an hour or two where the child or the adult or the baby is communicating, potentially through crying, that this is not what I'm used to. And so normally they just ask for food, whether it's a noise or a sound or a gesture or crying. And if they don't get it, then they do it louder because that's how they're used to getting their food. So if you're trying to train a behavior in the other direction of say, oh, no, we're not actually having food, or we're going to have less food at this time, then they may, exert that communication louder because that's what they're used to doing in order to receive it. So the extinction burst is when they express that louder and louder. So if they're crying, then they're crying louder and louder and harder just at the beginning. But then if you're extremely consistent, then that really only happens one time or one night or a few times or something. And then quickly after they learned, oh, that no longer gets my need met, or we're not doing that anymore. And then that behavior is extinct. It's the very last thing. So anyway, there may be, if you've gone too far, I've done this with almost zero crying every time. But if you've gone too far, then there may be a little bit of that in the process. But you just, communicate that now it's time to sleep. Now it's time to be awake. This is the schedule we're doing. And it's really short-lived if you're consistent. The only time it goes on and on is if you're inconsistent. Okay. So, that is all that I want to share from my expertise about getting a baby to sleep 12 hours or switch to a 90-minute or 3-hour nap or no nap or earlier bedtime or something like that. It's really just pick the schedule, put them on it. There may be a slight adjustment period, stay consistent, it will be short. And then, I want to reiterate again that those cycles, so around 3 months to 7 or 8 months, I do 12 hours a night, obviously, and then 2 90-minute naps. And then around 7 to 8 months, I've found that they very consistently are happy with 1 3-hour nap. Very consistent is the key. And then, let's see, that was, 1 3-hour nap. So you could start that, like I said, around 7 to 8 months. And then toddlers, what I would do is keep the 3-hour nap, obviously, and then their sleep would go down from 12 hours to 10 and a half hours at night. Again, like I said, I prefer to keep that 3-hour nap. Also, it's generally more efficient for an adult because we all work better with longer focus windows. So if you only have a 90-minute nap to do something else while your child is asleep, that's way less efficient than having a 3-hour nap. I'm sure everyone can agree that it's nice to have a 3-hour nap for your kiddo. But really, that means that they're taking one cycle off the nighttime sleep. So there isn't this magical thing that all of a sudden you're getting extra sleep. It's all just sleep math. So anyway, like I said, babies, 15 hours, I do that in a 12-hour plus a 3-hour nap. That's 8 months plus, 7, 8 months plus. And then toddlers, bumps down to 10 and a half hours a night. I keep that 3-hour nap. So just 13 and a half hours total. And then preschoolers go down to 12 hours. So I do that either in one go if it doesn't make sense for our family to have nap time because we've got things going on during the day and it wouldn't make sense to have someone home asleep for 3 hours, which is currently our lifestyle now. But like I said, at an earlier time in my life, it did make sense for us to do a family nap and be home every day for 3 hours. So that we did, 9 or 10 and a half hours at night for whatever age kid you have. And then, or even 12 hours, and then that 3-hour family nap. So it's whatever you want, whenever you want, you just design it. Your kids do not design your schedule. Your babies do not design their schedule. There should be no question ever about what time to go to bed, when to wake up, when to nap, if they need a nap. I do not understand why that would ever be in a question. That just throws everything off. It should be very clear. Also, I didn't mention earlier, but I know exactly to the minute what time my children are going to wake up. There's no question about that. Because I know exactly how much sleep they need. So, I put my daughter to bed at 9 o'clock. I know she's going to be up at 7:30. I put my son to bed, my 3-year-old son to bed at 8:30, I know he's going to be awake at 8:30 a.m. Whatever. It's extremely consistent. Now, if they've missed a cycle or there's an illness or something like that, then it's a possibility that they might add one more cycle. It's rare that I wouldn't be aware of that, but say for whatever reason they missed one sleep cycle, or maybe they got woken up or something happened. We generally never get woken up in our family. But in that case, the next sleep cycle, they're just going to add it on. So if for whatever reason he got 10 and a half hours one night, and he typically gets 12, then he's going to do 13 and a half hours the next night. Always. It doesn't really vary. And then the last thing I wanted to mention that I found extremely helpful in terms of me not getting woken up. I've mentioned I don't get woken up by my babies because they're consistent, but there is this whole thing with toddlers and preschoolers, it seems, where they just really like to be close to their parents, and babies as well, but I typically keep my babies very close, just not touching me so that they don't interrupt my sleep. So my solution for that, so my boundary is I do not want to be woken up. And I do not want anyone in my bed because that affects my quality of sleep. I want uninterrupted sleep, and I want high quality sleep. So, and I also wanted to address this in a way that would not cause stress or tears from them, such as training them to stay in their bed. It's really not ideal. Maybe they have a bad dream, or for whatever reason, they just wake up in the night and they just want to be close to me. So what I do, or what's the other thing? Yeah, people either train them to sleep in their bed, or they let them in the parents' bed, and both of those do not work for me, because if they're stuck in their own bed, that feels a little stressful. I remember when I was a child, I just wanted to be close to my parents, and they locked their door, and I hated that, and that was really scary and upsetting for me. So I do not lock my children out of my room, but I also don't want them in my bed. But also, yes, so. In order to deal with that, what I do is I just have a mattress on the floor in my room. If I had a date over, I probably would just move the mattress slightly out of my room, just so that my children felt like they could come closer to me if they needed to. And my rule is that you can come and sleep in this bed on the floor next to me, as long as you don't wake me up. And if you do wake me up, then I take them back to their bed. And so they have an incentive not to wake me up. And it works beautifully. My children are happy. I don't know, maybe 25% of the time right now, one of them is in this floor bed, maybe a little less. It kind of varies. And I wake up and they're just there, and that's fine with me. I wasn't woken up, and they're happy. They just slept there. Most of the time they sleep in their own beds, but everyone's happy. No one was woken up. No one was stressed. So that's all the knowledge I can think of in the moment to share around mastering sleep in our family. And I'm just so happy and so grateful that we're able to do whatever we want, whenever we want, for everyone in our family, whether that's doing a full-on family nap in the middle of the day, or doing no naps and partying all day, or it's like last night we went out late to a party, or it's me waking up several hours before my children, rested and ready to go, using that valuable quiet time in the morning, or staying out late and still not getting woken up by them. Also very easy to, plan around my various children schedules, such as like when I need to do a work day at my kids' preschool, and I don't do any bottles, so I 100% or EBF, exclusively breastfeed my baby. So by putting them on a schedule where their baby's nap is consistent, I'm able to I feed 4 times a day, sometimes a little bit more, but four main feeds a day. I guess I'll mention that. 4 main feeds for the baby, so I can be gone for 3 hours and know my baby's not going to be hungry or need to sleep when I'm not there. So I feel very confident what their needs are when I'm not there, and that I'm going to be there when they need milk and comfort going to sleep. And same for my kids. I don't want them to sleep at school. I want them to sleep in their bed and have milk if they want to have milk. So I do, into tandem breastfeeding, I do 4 feeds for my baby, and so you've got 12 hours of wake time. So you just break that up. So if they sleep, say 9 to 9, then you're going to do a feed at 9, 1, 4, and 8:45, because it takes like 15 minutes, and then they're asleep for 12 hours. So 4 feeds a day, and then, some comfort feeds if needed for, anyone needing some extra comfort. And then with tandem breastfeeding, I breastfeed everyone. I typically do 3 tandem feeds for my 3-year-old. So he just joins us for 3 of those when he's home from school, and then morning and night. And my 5-year-old does tandem feed morning and night. And I do not feel like I'm breastfeeding all day long. It's just snuggling, family bonding time, 4 times a day, and that's it. And it really is not, intrusive to my life and everything I want to get done. And I, basically get to do everything I want. So, all right. Hope that was helpful.